we didn't have any outlets on the far side of the garage, so we wanted to add some here. So this is adding an outlet to the east side of the garage. This is just a single outlet, but it goes up to a light fixture. For us, we have to use armored cable. That's by code, and this is wiring that in. Where we are in the Chicagoland area, you have to use armored cable by code. And you can see we are also using the metal boxes. So anytime you do that, I'm going to do the pigtails, but then I'm also going to wrap everything in electrical tape just to be safe. So wrap the pigtails in electrical tape once the nut is on, and then also wrap the electrical outlet just so you don't have any arcing. For the next project, I wanted to resize an existing workbench that I had in the garage. And this is comprised of two plastic legs. I bought these off of Amazon. They're actually pretty easy to make, but the idea is you can make it any size you want. So I created a smaller one to start, and now with the garage renovation, I wanted to fit the car ramps underneath it, so I need to make it a little bit taller as well as a little bit wider. And this is me just cutting all the 2x4s, the frame, to make that fit the new size. Keep an eye on that back leg that I just kicked on that sawhorse. I didn't know I did it at the time, but you'll see how this unfolds. If you're looking for a modular workbench, I highly recommend this. I've used this now for several years in a couple different sizes. It's really sturdy, really easy to put together, just out of plywood and 2x4s, and I've probably resized it now 2 or 3 times for the different uses in the garage. You'll notice on the bottom here I'm blocking it up, so I just took a piece of 2x4 for the car ramps. I needed extra height to be able to fit them underneath. So with this workbench setup, you can create pretty much any setup you need, but you'll just see I'm using scrap 2x4s or just a small block of 2x4 to block it up, so my bottom shelf's going to be a little bit taller. Here I'm starting to work on some of the walls for the garage. For the garage walls, I ended up going with 1/2" OSB 4x8 sheets. The idea behind this is that I wanted to paint these with a semi-gloss finish so they could be washed or wiped down if they get dirty or dusty, anything like that. So first step was to put primer on them, so I just used Kills stain blocker. And then once we get back into the garage later, I used a bare top coat, semi-gloss white, and it turned out really nice. Should be a durable finish, but the idea here is that the OSB boards are nice and straight and easy to use and easy to work with. And then before I did that, I went and insulated all the walls. So for this I used craft paper faced R13, and it comes in rolls. I think the rolls are 12 to 16 feet long, and then you just cut them to size, and they fit really nicely between the joists, and then you just staple everything together. For the OSB sheets, notice I'm using a little bit of a spacer on the bottom. I wanted to keep these up off of the concrete foundation just in case there was any moisture that would transfer up. So I just used small little blocks of like 1x2 material to space them up a little bit, just so there's a little bit of a gap between the concrete and the OSB sheeting. across the back of the garage we did a husky storage system, and this is modular. We've had this for a while in this configuration. It works really well. And then in the middle where the workbench is, I did a slat wall where you can hang tools, and there's a little workbench work area there. In the garage there were LED strip lights that were installed, and then what I wanted to do is I wanted to swap these out for the hex LED lights. We bought this setup. I think I bought 3 sets of the hexagon lights from Amazon. They turned out really nice. They actually added quite a bit of light to the garage, which was really nice. With the open joists in the garage, it presented a little bit of a challenge. A lot of the tutorials online showed the LED or the hex lights being mounted directly to a finished ceiling. What I ended up using was a cable system, and it has a little cable that goes into the joists, and then the cable threads through that, and you're able to adjust it up and down. It worked out really well. I think we ended up using 9 or 10 of the cables per grouping of LED light, and then that way you're able to adjust it and make sure everything's flat. Thanks for watching. See you in the next episode.